Chapter 9. Building Your Vision Board. As Mark Twain said, there are two important days in our life, the day we are born and the day we know why we were born. It is difficult to discover your why, but you can always create it. You are the architect of your future and not a prisoner of your past. Building your vision board is one of the most important exercises that you will do for yourself to help yourself figure out where you are headed in life. Our subconscious mind is very visual. It likes to see our future in the form of pictures, and that is what allows us to manifest it into reality. Of course, just imagining it isn't sufficient. We need to put in the necessary work to make it a reality. I would encourage including your family while making your vision board so that they can also contribute and be on the same page. This creates unity in the family. Here is a demonstration of how powerful it can be to have a clear picture of what you want. I built the first version of my vision board when I was in the middle of my PhD in May 2015. I wrote on my vision board that I will wrap up my PhD by December of 2017. I faced many challenges and things didn't go as planned. By September 2017, it looked like it would be another year to wrap up the experiments to finish my PhD, on top of all that pressure. My PhD advisor gave me an ultimatum. My scholarship would end by December of 2017. I'm not sure if she was serious about it, but I took it seriously. I sat down and planned out all the experiments and thesis writing related work I needed to complete within the next 3 months. Sure, I did have a sense of panic inside of me, but deep down I had a belief in myself that I could make it happen in time. But there was no way I could have completed all the experiments, data analysis, and thesis submission by myself in 3 months. All the entrepreneurial skills I had learned in the past 3 years, like goal setting, execution, failure management, collaboration, and uncertainty management, came very handy in this moment of crisis. Due to a technical issue, I wasn't allowed to enter the cell culture facility. I implemented people skills and collaborated with my lab mate to get the live cell samples. I was acquiring close to 20 gigabytes of image data every day, and there was no way my existing protocols or equipment could handle analysis of that much data. Hence, I collaborated with a professor at Purdue University for a large-scale data processing algorithm, my elder brother for optimizing and automating the algorithm, and the supercomputing facility staff, so that I could complete the data analysis on time. As I started making progress, another challenge popped up. The launch date for my natural health company, Nutridox, was set as November 30th, and in the inaugural flyer I had already been declared as Dr. Ved Prakash. I kept pushing hard, and then I received another update that if I wanted to graduate that semester, the last date for submission of my thesis would be November 10th. I told my PhD advisor about it, and she said that she would not even consider looking into my thesis until my research paper had been submitted. I took that as a challenge to grow my priority management capacity. I found ways to write my research paper and thesis in parallel to my experiments and data analysis. On top of that, I was also managing calls related to my company launch, a part-time internship I was doing at the Technology Commercialization Office, and a long-distance relationship with my girlfriend in India. My life didn't stop just because I was juggling multiple priorities. That's the important thing to remember at the end of the day in the journey of an entrepreneur. There will never be enough time. Frankly, we all have the same 24 hours in a day, so it's about making the time for your priorities, for what really matters to you, and then cutting off all the unnecessary parts. Since I was living by myself in a studio apartment, I still had to find time to do grocery shopping, cooking, laundry, etc. There were days when I didn't get a chance to sleep properly, but thanks to the support of my mentors, family, and my girlfriend at that time, I didn't give up. I finally submitted my research paper on November 4th, my thesis on November 10th, and defended my PhD just 18 days later, 2 days before the deadline I had set for myself. This was back in 2017, making me the fastest one to finish my PhD in my lab, probably because there was a fire under my butt, so to speak. Ultimately, the moral of the story is if we are motivated, driven by strong and clear goals, all we need to do is put our mind and action into making it happen, and it will. As cheesy as it may sound, what you think and believe will become a reality sooner or later. That's a fact, in my opinion. The possibility of this crazy feat could only be attributed to the power of subconscious mind and mentorship. I developed an attitude of not quitting. I would constantly speak to myself, how can I do this? Instead of saying, I can't do this. Yes, that truly does make a big difference in the outcome, as my example shows. As I was going through those challenging times, I knew that someday I would use my journey as an inspiration for someone else. That's how I dealt with the pressure in the last few months of my PhD and for many other challenges in life that I faced. Another instance of speaking about my future existence happened shortly after graduating. I wrote on my vision board that I would find a low-engagement job in Dallas by March 10, 2018, so that I could be around my mentors and have more freedom to work on my business ideas. I specifically didn't want to land up in a high-paying job, even though I was qualified for it, because that would suck the life out of me. In my mind, my job had become a side hustle, and my business was the main thing. As I was an immigrant in the USA, the post-graduation 90-day unemployment clock started ticking. After the unpleasant experience that I received in the last few months in academic research, I made sure not to apply for any postdoc positions or ask for any recommendation letter from my PhD advisor. Nothing against anyone in those job positions, but it just wasn't what I wanted for myself. I still had half a mind to find a job in Chicago so that I could use my weekends to wrap up my leftover research work. As per the advice of one of my entrepreneurial mentors, I conducted multiple informational interviews to get a better perspective about various possibilities for someone like me. During one of those interviews, an office colleague suggested that I dust off my hands and move on. I was still in split minds about my decision. One good thing that I did during this period was to never stay away from my business mentors. Even though my scholarship had ended, I still made sure to pay for tickets and attend various leadership conferences for my self-development and to stay emotionally stable. Major decisions of life were and still are made at these leadership events because we see someone living the life we want to live despite all the struggles. To my surprise, my decision to move to Dallas happened when I was at a leadership event in a different city, and I was waiting in my car in the parking lot for half an hour waiting for the ice on the windshield to melt. I had been thinking too long, but this tiny incident was the final push over the cliff for me to move to a warmer city like Dallas. Even though it had nothing to do with the leadership conference, if I had not made the decision to go to that leadership event, I would likely still be stuck in Chicago, and my life would have turned out differently. I wouldn't have met the love of my life, my wife, in Dallas, that's for sure. Once I got back home from the conference, I started looking for jobs in Dallas. Being an immigrant, there weren't many opportunities which I could apply for. I was looking for a low-engagement job so that I could be around my mentors and focus more on my business. The principle that money can come and go, but lost time won't come back, was a reason why business was always my focus and my guiding light in life. My subconscious mind started looking for job opportunities that were low-engagement ones. One such job opportunity turned out to be an excellent match where I could work as microscopy facilities manager at the University of Texas at Dallas UTD. I applied for a job, but I didn't hear back for a week. My past self would have given up on it and moved on. But thanks to mentorship, I didn't give up. My brain went into a creative zone to figure out ways to make things happen. I realized that all the faculty who used the facility would be looking for a person like me. I started emailing all the professors who had published papers using the microscopy facility. One of the professors forwarded my application to the facility director and I heard back. A few days later I had a phone interview, and then I was invited for an in-person interview. I researched the professors who were going to interview me and did everything in my power to make sure I could prove how I had the ability to help them propel their research forward. The next morning, I received a phone call that I had been selected. The background check and HR paperwork took some time, but despite all the challenges, I landed a job of the exact kind I was looking for on March 9th, 2018, just one day before the deadline I had set for myself. Similarly, I was able to accomplish many of my business milestones. Of course, during my journey, I did miss many goals. Either I changed the dates or changed the goals altogether because they were no longer relevant or suited the person I had grown into. For example, the girl whom I was planning to get married to became my ex-girlfriend after 6 years of long-distance relationship. That was my 7th failed relationship. Over time, I realized that we wanted different things out of life, and that our values weren't aligned, which were bound to lead to problems in the future. Ultimately, that empty space in my life and mind gave me an opportunity to rethink my priorities and make an elaborate list of 70 characteristics that I would like in my life partner. I worked hard and became the complementary version of my ideal partner, and eventually the love of my life showed up within 2 months. Note: never try to fill a freshly created void in your life or business with someone right away. Most likely the decision would be emotional and detrimental. The first time we met in person, I didn't ask her what her favorite color or hobby was. Instead, we talked about our goals and what we wanted to do with our lives. Later that night, I sent her a picture of my vision board, which she later told me just made it more attractive to meet someone who had a plan. Only because our values and vision had aligned, we had a deeper conversation. Because we connected at the deepest level, we moved in together within a week, became business partners in 4 months, got engaged in 6 months, and got married in 9 months. In other words, the building we are building or the goal doesn't have to be the same as the blueprint or our plan to achieve it, but it will tend to resemble the original plan if we don't give up and work to keep finding ways to make things happen. Most of us that come from an employee background have a mindset that our business is a side hustle, and that's why it often gets the leftovers of our time, money, energy, and other resources. Eventually, whatever was the side hustle gets kicked out of life whenever things get tough. When I started working, my job was my side hustle. And my business was the main hustle in my mind because my job was a stepping stone towards my legacy type of business. I had heard somewhere that if I wanted to retire early, I should write my resignation letter and read it every day. I followed the advice and wrote my resignation letter and kept it in my drafts. I also printed a copy and stuck it right by the side of my vision board in my bedroom. Here is what I wrote. Dear boss, I loved working for you and enjoyed my work for the past 3 years. However, I am happy to inform you that I cannot afford to work for you anymore. I tender my resignation because I'm gonna be free. Ved. 8th November 2022. If you are wondering why I chose this specific date, it was because it was my birthday. I wanted to work towards being unemployable, meaning that no amount of money could entice me to give up my dreams or time. And therefore, I built my life around it. Every major decision I made was based on the thought process of whether it is going to get me closer to my goal of freedom or not. I found ways to integrate household chores, pleasure, family activities, and work with entrepreneurship activities. The amount of time and energy we dedicate to each sector of life depends on our goals and varies from season to season. Thus, I stopped looking for work-life balance and found ways to create an integrated life around my goals and values. An elite athlete like Sachin Tendulkar doesn't have a work-life balance. He used to sleep in his bed while holding onto his cricket bat. In other words, he was literally eating, breathing, and sleeping cricket. Of course, I didn't submit my resignation letter as it was. I mellowed it down and submitted following version. Hi, it's been a pleasure working with you for the past few years, but I have a few more important responsibilities to attend to regarding my family. Hence, we have decided to move to India to take care of them. With due respect, I would like to tender my resignation. My last day will be on April 29th, 2022. Ved. Was I able to execute and make all these dreams a reality all by myself? Was I a self-made man? Of course not. No one can be self-made. Simply for us to be born, it takes two, and it takes many others to shape and influence us into who we are today. So let me share with you about the X factor that helped me make my dreams a reality. Chapter summary. There are two important days in our life: the day we are born and the day we know why we were born. There will never be enough time. We all have the same 24 hours in a day, so it's about making the time for your priorities, for what really matters to you, and cutting off all the unnecessary parts. To develop the possibility thinking, ask yourself, how can I do this? Instead of saying, I can't do this. Money can go and come, but time cannot. Average people chase money while ultra-successful ones chase time. The building we are building doesn't have to be the same as the blueprint or our plan to achieve it, but it will tend to resemble the original plan if we don't give up and work to keep finding ways to make things happen. Stop looking for work-life balance and find ways to create an integrated life around your goals and values.